Bingo. B-I-N-G-O. It was his name-o. And today you made it, oh. Good morning, everybody. Paul Ihander with you. Max Goren is back as well on this Thursday morning, August the 6th. And where do you find yourself? For some of you, football is back. It is official. We have a game tonight. The NFL has provided us a little sprinkle of pixie dust in what has been a very long summer without football. But it's back, at least for some of you. Some of you may not have the desire to dig into the Carolina Panthers tonight, Arizona Cardinals in the Hall of Fame game, but some of you will. And we had this discussion yesterday in the office, me and a couple of colleagues, and the first question on my mouth, and it was interesting because they hadn't really been paying too much attention, and they're like, it kind of snuck up on him. And the question to me was, how long do you think you're going to stay in it? Like, how long do you think you will stay watching this football game? And I said, well, I'm trying to figure out who I want to watch and if there's something worthy. Like, I'm interested to see what Haynes King's going to look like in a professional uniform, knowing that his primary, purpose in the college game was just as much to run the football as throw the football, which will make him, kind of more valuable to a team that's going to be running out fifth string and sixth string guys by the time he gets into a football game. I wanted to see Jeremiah Love run for the Arizona Cardinals. However, it was announced yesterday that he will not play in tonight's game. Come on! But I will get to see Carson Beck. And so much that as Vegas has finally laid down the lines, we say Vegas, but, sports betting is everywhere now. It's in every state. They've finally been able to put out some player props. And again, this is where the care and the don't care kind of come into play. For example, and Carolina's favored in this one, by the way. The money line's minus 120 for Carolina, and the over-under's 35.5. Carson Beck to throw a touchdown on his first offensive drive. This is the Arizona Cardinals starting quarterback. He will play the entire game, apparently. No Jacoby Brissett, no Gardner Minshew. Beck's going to go the whole way. Former Miami Hurricanes quarterback from, quarterback U, essentially. Cam Ward, Carson Beck, and soon-to-be Darian Mensah. Plus 750 for him to throw a touchdown. Plus 10,000 for him to score a rushing touchdown. Now, for the Carolina Panthers, Kenny Pickett to throw a touchdown, little better odds, and to score rushing touchdowns, plus 6,000. Haynes King, though, is only plus 2,200 on his first offensive drive to score a rushing touchdown. Is that possible? Haynes King talked to the media yesterday ahead of the game, and he talked about growing as a signal caller beyond just being a runner.
I felt like I've been developing pretty good. A lot of it is transitioning through progressions, whether it's, second, third, or check down. When you're moving smoothly through those and knowing where everybody's at and how things progress and how fast things progress as well, I feel like, you get better as a quarterback and your completion percentage gets up because you're finding the right guys at the right time. And, after that, it's just about accuracy.
Well, the problem for King is that he's going to be working with more experienced receivers, and his goal might be to throw more to guys like Jimmy Horn Jr. and Bryson Tremaine and probably even John Mechie. Like, he's going to throw to guys who have experience in the NFL, and it's going to be incumbent upon him to prove his worth. Whether the Carolina Panthers decide to carry him as a third quarterback will be, maybe that's one of the more intriguing storylines that could come out of this football game. How much he can impress, how much he can show his skills to everybody else, because the quarterback position's a fairly fickle position in the NFL. Lots of guys get cycled in, many more get cycled out. Game tonight's at 8 o'clock on our family station, Mix 101.5. If you are tooling around the area, you've got things to do tonight. Maybe you're a delivery driver or one of those Uber drivers out there and you're in your car all the time. Mix 101.5, 7 o'clock pregame, 8 o'clock with the kickoff. I believe it's like 8:01. Like, they're just going to get going. Like, here we go. Let's go. There's no pomp and circumstance. We'll have the national anthem, a flyover from the Ohio National Guard or whatever, and then we will be on our way. Cardinals and the Panthers tonight. So for some of you, football's back. For some of you, is absolutely football's back. Now, Kenny Pickett's going to get the start tonight. Veteran quarterback. I didn't realize that Kenny Pickett was 28. Like for a, like we're like, hey, Andy Dalton, he's not mobile, 38 years old, 39 years old, and then we get Kenny Pickett, who decidedly younger legs, a little bit less mileage on the knees, so to speak. But man, I didn't think he was in that league that long, but apparently he has been that long. And he and Dave Canales they're buddies, they're friends, they bonded in the draft 5 seasons ago. And so Pickett yesterday, who will get the start tonight for the Carolina Panthers, talked about his relationship with Dave Canales.
He's awesome. He's in there as much as he can in the quarterback room. Brad's been, really taking the reins of the offense, and he's done an unbelievable job. And Will runs the meetings in the quarterback room, and he's helped me a ton. So it's been a great working relationship with all those guys and getting to know them a little bit off the field, their families and stuff like that. So it's been awesome. It's just a day-to-day process.
I like hearing that. He's not too laid back. He understands his role. He's the backup to Bryce Young. Got to make sure that Bryce is tuned up, who's not going to play, and he'll be smiles, and I guarantee there'll be some sideline conversation with him about, expectations and whatnot. This isn't the sexiest matchup. I mean, let's be honest. It's really not. For the national, entertainment factor, if I had to rate it between a 1 and a 10, it's probably about a 5. And that 5 for me is just because it's the first game of the season. If there weren't clearly the ties between the Hall of Fame inductees and the game, it probably would be even less. But who are you choosing from at this point? Drew Brees, so you're going to have New Orleans play, and the only other option was like Arizona. So you got New Orleans and Arizona, or you have San Francisco, Roger Craig, San Francisco and Arizona. Which, okay, divisional battle, you don't want that. You're not going to have Carolina, New Orleans, divisional battle, you don't want that. This is kind of, to be frank, it feels like it's the only option. Like New Orleans, San Francisco would be the kind of other one, but I'm like, are you looking, if you're looking for a less attractive option, that might be the one too. Like this, again, for an entertainment factor for me, probably about a 5. I could lean into that just a little bit more. But we're going to watch it, and I get back to the original question. It's like, how long do you think you're going to stay in the game? And between me and 2 of my colleagues, I said, I'm probably going to roll through at least a half. I'm going to roll through a half, and maybe by the second half, they'll put some running clock together, and we'll figure it out. But I do want to see some guys, hoist it up a little bit. See what happens with this whatever vanilla play calling that Brad Idzik's supposed to be play calling. Nobody wants to show off a ton of things. The over-under on slant passes and screen passes will probably be about 20 or 22 because these teams aren't going to want to show off deep threats, even though what guys can, the guys that can run the route tree, right? And most of them are going to stop at the first branch. And like, all right, turn, catch, let's get 7 yards, let's just get some offense moving and whatnot. No one's expecting a offensive explosion. No one's expecting big monster sacks unless, again, by the time the third quarter, fourth quarter rolls around, you're going to see 5th-string guys, 6th-string guys deep into roster play. They're just out there to make sure that in a 4-game preseason, which is the advantage to the teams who play in this Hall of Fame game, that guys don't get hurt, that guys don't get banged up, and you got enough reps to go around because that's important. And for the Carolina Panthers, depth is important right now. They're running out of it. They got to keep bringing guys in off waiver wires. They got to bring in guys who are going to be cut. Maybe they'll make a trade for, I don't know, whatever they find their trust in, if they have to make that deal. But I'm sure Dan Morgan's pretty set on his 53. I can't imagine there are that many positional battles left with the Carolina Panthers right now. They have the majority of their, stars or so-called stars locked up and locked down. You're looking at 52, 53, 54, and practice squads. And usually those don't get turned over very hard. You like guys that have been in your system for a while. All right, so let's turn our attention to college football, shall we, this morning? So, again, Panthers, Cardinals tonight, Mix 101.5, our family station. 8 o'clock is where we have the kickoff. Coverage begins at 7 o'clock there. That's Max. I'm Paul. Let's start with college football here. And news out of Carolina this morning is that, and they had media avail today with head coach Bill Belichick. Within the past 20 minutes or so, North Carolina has said that their defensive coordinator, Steve Belichick, will be out indefinitely due to a medical issue. And when pressed upon it, and WRL's Brian Murphy is out there and reported it as it was being given to the media, said we'll get him back as soon as possible. I don't know how this changes the game plan. I'll be honest with you. When it comes to defense, I'm sure there's a next coach up mentality when it comes to Bill Belichick and the North Carolina football team, but it's not really what they need. They don't need another something. I'm not saying it's a distraction. Nobody's health should be joked about, especially when you have to take medical leave, whether it's something that's serious or something that has to be checked out or something that, can be controlled, hopefully, with some medication and some rest. That's what you kind of hope for. That's what you really want to hope for. And considering the kind of stuff that, State went through last year with, the family of its coaching staff, and you wish the best for those kinds of things, but it's just another thing for Carolina to deal with, and they don't need that. They don't want that. That's absolutely terrible news, knowing that you've got 3.5 weeks to prepare for your first game of the season, and it happens to be overseas as well, which comes with a little bit more scrutiny because you have to perform in a different spot, and you have to lean into what you've got. All right, so that's the latest news out of Carolina. Defensive coordinator going to take medical leave. Let's go to Duke. Duke had ACC on site yesterday. ACC Network is rolling through all the camps. I watched a bit of this show last night on ACC Network. A little bit of Diaz, some Nate Shepard, everyone kind of talking. I think one of the interesting parts about this is that Manny Diaz has to deal with a quarterback battle, and he had to deal with it the day after the transfer portal as they started bringing in guys. One of the guys in the clubhouse who they got the waiver for, Walker Eget of San Jose State, he's going to be a quarterback battle with Dan Mahan. How is that quarterback battle going? Let's ask Coach Diaz himself.
Dan and Walker both took reps with the first group today. That's the first time that Walker's, seeing, somewhat of a rush since last season. So, you've got one guy who's got a lot of promise who hasn't done it yet, and you got one guy who's got a lot of production who's just getting into our offense and learning. But there's also a lot of new names and faces that weren't really there in March and April too. So, like our pass defense, our passing offense will be something that my suspicion will improve, week by week, day by day. And I think that's the great challenge, right? Because any good day for your pass offense is a bad day for your pass defense and vice versa.
How long will he give a leash to these guys, though, knowing what he's got in-house? And you look at the schedule that starts rolling at them very fast. And you've got Tulane coming to town September 5. So you got a month to figure it out in terms of naming a starting quarterback, in which I'm pretty sure he's going to roll this right up till game week to make a decision to give himself the best option and this team the best option. And then you got to roll on the road to Illinois and a Big Ten school that has something to prove. You get Stanford at home. You have William and Mary, who you don't want to slip up on. They don't have Elon this year. I'm kind of sad about that. Usually Elon Duke's early season matchup. And then you have questions with going into the bye week. It'll be important for whoever Coach Diaz chooses as his starter to get settled in quickly, to figure out if Tulane, which is not being coached by John Summerall anymore, the pastures have been greener for those who used to be part of the Green Wave. But there's a test. There's immediate tests for this team. Maybe not so much with the team, picked to finish, at the end of the ACC in Stanford in week number 3, and certainly not in week number 4 with the FCS opponent. But those first two out of the gates will determine whether or not Duke can actually defend an ACC championship, or they're just here to compete and play as hard as they possibly can with some expectations and some understanding that, we're not the class of the league the way we were last year. And you can't take away that championship. No one will take that away from them. But it's a different year. And it's interesting to hear him talk about this, too, in the new world of college football, into where, some guys are reporting the amount of money that they've accepted to stay. Some guys, it stays under wraps because they are private deals and you are dealing with a private university, at Duke University. Coach Diaz was asked about position battles on his team and the high amount of turnover that he's had and continues to deal with.
This team just has great competition all over, and I think that's just going to, being great is being consistently good, right? So anybody we have can make a great catch or can make a great play every now and then. I think that's the neat thing about this training camp is there's no time of the year that you practice more than this, right? So if it really means something to you, you'll find a way to bring it with passion, for the next 15 days. If not, then your performances will rise and fall, and that's fine. There's a role for you, but probably not as a starter. So really, that's what you're discovering about the guys, and they're discovering about themselves. Like some guys, everybody wants to play. Some guys have to play. You're trying to separate those two.
they had to bring in some help at the receiver position once again. And you're breaking in a new quarterback, too, at the same time. And that's not unusual for Duke. They're breaking in new quarterbacks constantly. But you are breaking in skill position, and it's going to be very important for whoever is that primary signal caller for Duke to develop that chemistry early. They aren't too transfer heavy, though, to be fair, outside of those positions. Defensively, they have a lot of – Diaz has a lot of returners on this defense. He's got a couple of guys that went to the league. There's no doubt about it, but he does have a lot of experience on the defensive side of the football in that scheme. Offensively, it'll be interesting to see if they can put up that kind of video game style of points that they had last year. Nate Shepard's going to need help. Jeremiah Hasley's going to need help. Your two biggest returners are at running back and at tight end. You've got help up front. There's no doubt about it. They're going to have help up front, but it'll be whoever this signal caller is for Duke. If it is Eget, if it is Mahan, who knows? It will be important for Manny Diaz to make that decision, I think, earlier than later to give whoever steps in some confidence. And if it's Walker Eget, great. He had a good run at San Jose State. This is his last year at it. And that evaluation has already begun on the field for Duke to whether or not they can be a contender. And if it's worth, splitting time, I'm not a big fan of two-headed quarterback system. I don't like the way it's employed in many cases across college football. I think you should just decide on a starter and ride or die with them. And if for some reason they die 6-7 weeks into this thing, and you're not playing for anything except maybe an outside shot at a bowl, then you can make a switch and get things going. But you are paying an awful lot of money for guys to come back. Like Nate Shepard, I'm sure that check wasn't cheap. But he stayed for a reason. He's a loyal dude. He's loyal Manny Diaz, and he could be a superstar for them. So lots of movement when it comes to college football. Good to see it all back. And again, tonight, pro football returns. Cardinals of Arizona, Panthers of Carolina in the Hall of Fame game. Full coverage on our family station, Mix 101.5. And certainly throughout the day today, if we get any news on the Panthers as they're up there. Luke Kuechly, by the way, who is going to be inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame this weekend, is expected to speak before 3 o'clock. I'm sure Tim Donnelly and Dennis Cox will have some of those comments during the drive.
I'm Max Goren with 3 things you need to know right now from 99.9 The Fan. It's Hall of Fame game day. The Carolina Panthers will kick off the NFL preseason against the Arizona Cardinals tonight at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. Coverage of tonight's game will be found on our family station, Mix 101.5, with pregame starting at 7 ahead of an 8 o'clock kickoff. New this morning out of Chapel Hill, UNC football head coach Bill Belichick has announced that his son, UNC defensive coordinator Steve Belichick, is out indefinitely on medical leave. It is unclear whether he will return for the Tar Heels season opener against TCU on August 29th. The Durham Bulls split their doubleheader with the Charlotte Knights last night and will continue the series in the Queen City tonight. Bulls coverage is available on 620 AM Buzz Sports Radio, 99.9 FM HD2, and WRAL News Plus, with first pitch scheduled for 7:04 p.m. For all the latest news on your favorite teams, download the 99.9 The Fan app or visit 999thefan.com.
This is the longest con of cons, I believe. LIV Golf has turned into a financial circus. Maybe that's the best way to call it right now. Yesterday, they put together a press conference in which, for weeks, we had thought they were going to shut down. And again, the papers haven't been signed, but there was an official statement just before noon yesterday that LIV Golf has an agreement in place with a, quote, lead investor signed by the investor and approved by the board to play a role in LIV Golf 2.0, essentially. They're going to make the players majority equity holders. Okay. And they're going to have to finalize all the financial terms in coming weeks. They have 2 more tournaments to play this year. Indianapolis, that is in 2 weeks. And then 3 weeks after that, the season-ending championship, which will be in Michigan, although, my goodness, at this news conference to announce a lead investor, of which they did not announce who the lead investor was.
They didn't announce it, but it's like BC Capital or something like that, some kind of private equity.
That's great. they found somebody with some extra cash and got them to buy into the fact that we can continue playing this albatross, to borrow a golfing term, albatross of a tour that nobody seems to still understand, that nobody really wants to watch, and the only people that are truly kind of dug into this now, because now they will have skin in the game apparently, or at least I don't know what this means by letting them have equity in the league, are the players that are still playing on this tour. The new LIV Golf will now have 10 events. 5 will be in the U.S., and 5 will be international. Now, I'm assuming they'll run back to Australia because Australia just loves LIV Golf. And I believe Thailand had like a really kind of like party atmosphere or whatever it was. They're going to have the event in Indianapolis, but then again, apparently, they have not, quote, made any final formal decisions on their Michigan event and hope to in the coming weeks. Well, you have 3 to figure out if you can stage a team championship. This should tell this lead investment group something, that they don't have the right people in place, they don't have the right plan in place, and it feels like they've been winging it. They've been winging it for weeks, and now that they've got this golden goose or this great savior or whatever you want to call it, that they are getting conned out of money. Like, this is absolute thievery. If you tell me that you're losing money, that your main backer who got this thing started said, yeah, we don't really want a part of this anymore, and you're trying to, like, keep this thing afloat, that you have absolutely found the sucker. And there was the old saying about the carnival, the circus, P.T. Barnum said there was a sucker born every minute. And you're like, whoever approved this for LIV Golf, you know what? I'll take your money. I joked yesterday about the Dodgers ruining baseball and how I had oceanfront property in West Virginia to sell. I still have that property in West Virginia to offer. Like, I would love to meet this person and exactly what that pitch was. And now they've got interest from dozens of other potential financial backers. Did y'all see Wolf of Wall Street? Jordan Belfort, who now, was sentenced to prison and now gives financial talks about, trying to sell people pens or whatever it is. I'm like, the guy's a salesman, absolute salesman. And he sits down in the, what was the name of the place? It was like the Financial Institute, the Financial something. When he goes and he gets fired from loses his job on Wall Street, ends up selling penny stocks. And he's surrounded by a bunch of, just dudes sitting at a bunch of phone, but just a big phone bank. And he gets his first client on the line and just starts talking fancy. He starts talking about how this firm in the Midwest is on the brink of getting patents for radar technologies that will have, untitled and unbelievable applications in the fields of military and public science. And he gets the guy on the phone. Again, it's a movie, I get it. He gets the guy on the phone to commit $4,000 to it. And knowing that $2,000 of that buy is his in commission. That's what this LIV Golf feels like right now. Like, we need, and to LIV Golf, Scott O'Neill, who's the CEO, says, we now have enough equity to take us not just into 27, but he goes 28, 29, and 30. So if he's telling the truth, then maybe if they're running it down to 10 events, maybe there's enough, and maybe they're slimming this thing down, and maybe they're going to pass the hat at the greens, and they're going to pay Bryson and John Rahm the ridiculous amounts of monies that are owed to them, human monies, by the way. That someone's taking something, and this is just nothing more than just a weird penny stock grab. Like, that's what LIV Golf is worth. It's pennies. It's absolute pennies. Find me somebody out there. Like, talk amongst your golf friends this morning. And I know a lot of you have them. Talk amongst that group and ask them, are you watching this? Can you name somebody else that Paul didn't name this morning on Next Up that plays on this tour that you could walk up to on the street and go, dude, saw you at LIV Golf in Indianapolis. What a great game you had.
Well, nobody would
what
ever
a great
say that.
Round.
Nobody would ever say that because nobody would ever go to LIV Golf Indianapolis.
It is the longest con right now. And it's strange because people still keep believing in the money. It's the Nigerian prince who keeps saying that you've inherited money from Africa. Send me $100,000 and I'll send you $2 million. And they go, well, it's held up in gold. Well, what do you need to free it up? What do you need to free up the tariffs? Another $50,000. All right, well, let me send it to you. It's this endless money pit over and over and over again. Someone's got to start realizing that LIV Golf is that Nigerian prince. That money ain't ever coming. That return is never coming. And it's a shame. It's a shame because there's a lot of good golfers out there that are literally watching their careers walk away from them. Like in the public light. I get it. They're still playing golf. They're still playing in front of, 10 tournaments a year? Who wouldn't want that? If I only play 10 tournaments a year and they sign me up for $10 million and it doesn't matter what I do, I could literally play with offhanded clubs. Like maybe that's the challenge. Go to a thrift store and buy a set of clubs and play that way because they're they're getting a check no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, you're not even allowed to wear shorts anymore. So, what's really the point of playing on LIV Golf anymore?
You just get carts? You just chug a beer after a birdie. Maybe that would make it more. I don't get it. Global Sports League? Absolutely. They play 5 events outside the United States. That's a global sports league. There is a sucker born every minute. There's no doubt about that.